Hello everyone, in this video lesson we are going to discuss about multiple alleles, sex inheritance and sex linkage. What are multiple alleles? In living organisms there are sometimes more than two alleles which cover one inheritance for a trait. Most genes have more than two alleles for each trait. And the inheritance which is based on multiple alleles, it is, let's say, called the heredity with multiple alleles. And the typical example of this kind of inheritance, it is the inheritance of the blood type or blood groups of the A, B, O blood system. So as I mentioned in the previous slide, an example of multiple alleles, it is the human blood groups. We know that we have four groups which are A, B, and 0, and all these groups are determined by only one single gene. So this gene, it is, let's say, expressed in three different genes, which are IA, IB, and IB and I0. IA and IB are dominant, while the I0 it is recessive for both IA and IB. And these three, let's say, genes will, let's say, be expressed in different phenotype and combined in different genotype to give the blood types. So we have the blood type A, which is formed by the genotype IA or IA-I0. So it might be IA and IA, or it might be IA and I0, both for the group A. Same to the blood type B. We have the group B and the genotypes are IB or IB0. And when we talk about the group AB, it means that we have the genotype IAIB. And in this case, we say that the group blood type AB, it is co-dominant. And the last group, it is the group 0, in which, let's say, we have the genotype I0. It might also be expressed, let's say, in this way, I0. Let's see an example. The example says, a man which has the group of blood B and the woman with the group of blood A have 3 children. One, it has the group A, one it has the group B, and one it has the group 0. And it, let's say, asks the possible genotypes of the 5 people. How to solve, let's say, this simple problem? To solve this problem, first of all, we are able to determine the genotype of one of the children, which is which should be I0 because it has the group 0. So in the moment that we have a child with the group 0, it means that the parents should be or let's say should have the genotype I0 for the mom, or let's say for the woman, and I0 for the man. And this, let's say, the genotypes of the parents are, let's say, easily solved out from this child. Then the genotype of our other children are, the child with group A will have the genotype IA-I0, and the second child will have the genotype IB and I0. So in this way we can, let's say, knowing the blood type groups of the children and the parents, we are able to mention, or let's say to know the possible genotypes of the 5 people. The second point in which we are going to discuss in this video lesson, it is the sex inheritance. We know that we have let's say 23 pairs of chromosomes, and the last pair of chromosomes are the sexual chromosomes. So the first 22 chromosomes are called autosomes, and the last pair of chromosomes, it is the sex chromosomes. These, let's say, chromosomes determine the sex in individuals. So if the person, let's say it is XX, it will be a female, and if the person is the XY, it's going to be a male. The Y chromosome is much shorter than the X chromosomes and carries, let's say, a fewer genes. Now let's see which are those kind of disorders, let's say, which are inherited through the sex inheritance or sex chromosomes. So we have sex linkage. In humans, inheritance, it is based on XY chromosomes linkage. Inheritance depending on X chromosome, it is seen only in females, while the inheritance depending on epsilon and XY, it is seen that affects both males and females. There are 2 typical examples of the diseases which are caused or inherited because of disorders on the X chromosomes, and these are the color blindness and hemophilia. Color blindness or daltonism, it is a condition in which the person it is not able to differ between the red and green color. And the hemophilia, it is a condition in which we have in the moment then we have bleeding, our body it's not able to coagulate, or let's say there are coagulation disorders in blood clotting of the blood vessels or damaged blood vessels. Now let's see each of them shortly, and let's see how do the X chromosomes affect the inheritance in different kind of traits. So color blindness, as I mentioned, it is, let's say, a disease in which the individual cannot distinguish between the red and the green color, and this is known as the daltonism. The gene for color blindness, it is represented by small r, while the gene for the normal vision, it is represented by large R. Females have 2 X, so the color blindness can occur or can take place only if the gene it is homozygous for let's say the color blindness, which means that there are 2 small r's. Males have only 1 X chromosomes because males, as we know, are XY, and even a single gene for the color blindness can express its characteristic by itself. Let's see an example. The example says a normal-sighted woman marries a normal-sighted man. 50% of their male children are colorblind. According to these results, the genotypes of the parents will be as shown below. So we have a normal-sighted woman, which means we have X large R, X small r, which means it is heterozygotes, but let's say the woman, it is a carrier, but it is normal and doesn't express, let's say, the points of the disease. Then the father, it is normal, which means we have XRY. And we can see the gametes which are able to be produced from the mother and the father. For the mother, we have XR X large R, sorry, we have X small r. Then for the father we have X large R and Epsilon. And if we put them in the Punnett square, we can see that in here we will have XR for the mother, and for the father we are going to have these gametes, which are the X large R and Epsilon. If we make the cross with the red color, we are going to see then we have X large R, X large R, X large R, X small r, then we have X large R Epsilon and X small r Epsilon. So from the crossings you can see that on the offspring we have half of the female are, let's say, sorry, the females are all normal sight vision, but they are carriers. We have half of the men children's or boy children's are, let's say, color blinded, because as we already mentioned before, we have only one X on the male, so this X it's contains, let's say, the R, the small r, so it is color blindness. The second type of the disease in which, let's say, we have the inheritance depending on the X chromosome, it is hemophilia. The X chromosomes contain many genes, and one of them it is the gene that codes for a protein, which is important for the blood clotting, and this is called the factor VIII. There are two alleles of the gene for the hemophilia. One, it is the large H, which is dominant, producing the normal factor, and the small h, which is recessive, resulting in the absence or the lack of factor VIII. The recessive allele causes the disease hemophilia, in which blood fails to clot in appropriate way. So, if the female has two large A, it is normal. If the female has, let's say, one large H and one small h, it is normal, but it is a carrier of the hemophilia. And if the male has, let's say, a large H on the X, it is a normal man. And the person might be, let's say they have the hemophilia in the moment when we have the female with two small h and the male with one small h on the X chromosomes. Let's see examples of inheritance of hemophilia. The first, let's say, example says the offspring of a healthy non-carrier mother and a hemophiliac father will be as shown below. So we have a normal mother, which is non-carrier, which means that both X chromosomes have a large H, and the hemophiliac father, it means that the X chromosomes will have a small h. And from the combination of the gametes in the Punnett square, we are going to see that in the offsprings we are going to have women's, let's say, or daughters, which are normal for the hemophilia, but they are carriers, and we are going to have one of the boy is going to be normal for hemophilia, and one is going to be let's say will be hemophiliac boy. The second example says that the offspring of a carrier mother and hemophiliac father will be as shown below. Carrier mother, it means that it's going to have one large H and one small h on X chromosomes, while hemophiliac father, the father will have the small h on the X chromosomes. If the gametes in which they form are X large H, X small h from the mom, and are also X small h and y for the father. Also, again, we put them on the Punnett square, and we are going to have offsprings which are, let's say, it is going to be one hemophiliac girl, one carrier but normal girl, and we are going to have again one male offspring which is hemophiliac, so he has the disease, and one normal boy for the hemophilia. Thank you. This was the lesson for today.